Welcome back to our study of the brothers Karamazov. I'm Suzanne Ross of the Raven Foundation. When we last met, we were discussing the Grand Inquisitor, and we left the Grand Inquisitor happily justifying his dictatorship of the people and his burning of heretics, even the burning of Jesus as he returned once again to the earth as a necessary evil. The Grand Inquisitor believes that human suffering is inevitable, and the best you can do is minimize it and perhaps use it to your advantage. So he has set himself up as arbiter of who gets to suffer for the greater good. Because truly the Grand Inquisitor believes that he is concerned about the well-being of the entire community, about keeping the peace, and about helping everyone achieve personal happiness. And he does this by taking on the responsibility of deciding whose happiness, whose very lives will get sacrificed for the benefit of the rest of the community. So we see this graphically illustrated in the burning of the heretics and the crowd assembling in the square, forming community around the suffering of these victims whose voices aren't heard and whose suffering isn't even acknowledged. Now, in the lives of Ivan and Dmitry, the two older Karamazov brothers, we see that they have been living by this ethic in their personal lives, that their own happiness, their own agendas have always trumped those of the others around them. In fact, in many cases, they have not even acknowledged that there were other voices or other agendas to be even listened to. So let's look at what happens as Ivan and Dmitry wrestle with the implications of living within the ethic that the Grand Inquisitor proposes. Let's start with Ivan, who's the author of the Grand Inquisitor. As the plot unfolds and as the novel unwinds itself, Ivan becomes slowly aware of his responsibility and complicity in his father's death. The novel is a murder mystery, really. The father, Papa Karamazov, is murdered, and it is uncertain who committed the murder. And we find by the end of the novel that the culprit, the one who actually lifted the heavy object and smashed Fyodor Karamazov in the head, was Smerdyakov, the servant of the household and the unacknowledged illegitimate half-brother of Dmitry, Ivan, and Alyosha. Smerdyakov claims that the reason he killed their father is that Ivan wanted it. He did it to please Ivan. Ivan's cavalier philosophy that everything is permissible if there is no God and there is no immortality and there is no morality has infected Smerdyakov to the point where he is able to justify the death and the murder of Fyodor Karamazov for Smerdyakov's benefit, for the benefit he thinks of Ivan, so that the inheritance that is coming to them will be preserved, and that Smerdyakov himself will come into the 3,000 rubles that have been in question throughout the novel. So Ivan slowly comes to realize, even though he never directly told Smerdyakov to kill their father, that he bears responsibility for it, for his inability to see that Smerdyakov was a human being who had needs and desires and who might react and in a way that Ivan couldn't anticipate to Ivan's own philosophizing. So as Ivan becomes aware of this, he slowly goes mad. And his guilt and his sense of moral dilemma becomes manifest in an actual appearance of a devil, a vision of a devil in his life. And when the novel ends, Ivan is insane, basically. His descent into madness is fairly complete. He's very ill, and we're not sure what the outcome is going to be. Certainly, the suggestion throughout the novel that the way out of being trapped within a Grand Inquisitor type of ethic is forgiveness. Certainly, at the end of the Grand Inquisitor, Jesus kisses the Grand Inquisitor, offering his forgiveness to him. The Grand Inquisitor doesn't accept that forgiveness. The question is, will Ivan accept forgiveness? And it's indeed a tragedy that the ones whom he has harmed the most, his father and Smerdyakov, are both dead, and so unable to offer forgiveness directly. So what will happen to Ivan, we don't know. Will he be able to receive forgiveness from his family, from his community, is an uncertainty. And then we have Dmitry, who by the end of the novel is inspired to make a dramatic leap from being a complete scoundrel to being a Christ-like saint. He has a vision while he's in prison. Dmitry is arrested and accused of his father's murder, and while he's in prison, he has a dream of a suffering child, very much like the vision of the suffering children that inspired Ivan to write the Grand Inquisitor. And in his dream, he is tormented by the questions: why is this child hungry? Why is he suffering? Why is there poverty in the world? And the child comes to him and quiets him and kisses him on the forehead. Again, we're reminded of the kiss of Christ to the Grand Inquisitor. And when Ivan wakes up, he is gripped by this sense of being responsible for everyone. He goes from being living a life where he takes responsibility only for his own happiness to wanting to now take responsibility for everyone's happiness. And he is willing, he tells Alyosha, to go to prison, to endure suffering for the sake of humanity. And Alyosha wisely says to Dmitry, that's such a great idea, brother, but it may be a little more than you're ready for right now. But he encourages Dmitry to hang on to that image of the man he wants to be, of the man who would be capable of such an extreme sacrifice of his own happiness if it would in some way bring happiness to others and alleviate their suffering. So what I'm going to do in the next session, which will be our final session, is look at what Alyosha offers as a more doable alternative to the utter and complete Christ-like sacrifice that Dmitry wants to make. Thank you.